Of shows with business owners that puts them in front of a global audience. And in behind those shows is a whole range of things, from digital magazines to social media to blogging to email to lead generation, just a whole range of things. Good morning, everyone, and good evening to those listening across the globe. I'm Tony Lontis, and this is the Everyday Business Show. Thank you for listening. And if you're listening live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or Twitter, on the Everyday Women's Network or on Binge Networks USA, thank you for joining us today for yet another session of the Everyday Business Show. Now, don't forget that you can download the Tony TV app on Roku, LG, Samsung, and smart TVs across the planet. And we are syndicated and streaming globally across the world, across many and multiple TV, plus your socials of Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. If you have any questions about this episode, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We will include attached to this interview all the information about our phenomenal guest today. And before we do that, just something that we've been doing for a little while now, and it's a particular to Australia, and it's called our Welcome to Country. And today I want to respectfully acknowledge the people of the Yugambeh language region on the Gold Coast, Queensland, Australia, and pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging, and recognise the important role that these Indigenous peoples played in our community and the development of Australia. Now, today's show is called Your Network is Your Net Worth. And we are privileged to talk to the amazing woman that is Colleen Biggs. Now, before I introduce you, here's what you need to know. So Colleen is an award-winning business coach who empowers women to be ready to learn and step into their peak performance and to take action so that they expand their influence, attract the right clients, and generate more money. She has extensive success and experience in corporate America over the last 30 years, consulting on over 340 business startups, franchising, and voluntary national and local community service. She is the author of 5 best-selling books, with the most recent international #1 bestseller called Step Into the Spotlight, which talks about expanding your influence and attracting the right customers. She is an elite podcast host of Take the Leap with Colleen Biggs. Colleen built Lead Up for Women from 2018 through to 2021 with over 10,000 women. And she is now the CEO and founder of Leap. She's recently been awarded the 2020 Local Person of the Year and the 2021 awarded Top 10 Businesswoman. Colleen provides women with a community of entrepreneurs that take the leap daily and realize their net worth is their network is their net worth. Colleen, welcome to the show.
Oh, Tony, thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here. I'm really blessed to have this opportunity to speak to your listeners.
I'm really grateful that you could take time out of your busy schedule to talk to us today. And this is actually our first show back in 23, so it's doubly exciting to have you here. Colleen, I'd like to start the show with a motivational quote, and yours is a particularly good one. When I was reading it last night, I'm like, wow, that's really good. So Colleen's quote is, "If learning is beneath you, then leadership is beyond you." Colleen, why does this quote inspire you? I love it, by the way.
Because how many times have you said something to someone and they say, "Oh, I know," or, and you're like, "Well, do you? Because
do you really?
If you knew, then you wouldn't be asking that question." Right. Mm-hmm. So I think there becomes a time in everyone's life where maybe they think they already know it, or they know it
Mm.
all, or there isn't any more expansion room. When we open ourselves up to learning from other people, whether we feel that they're levels ahead of us and beyond us, or levels below us, and when we reach out and learn from others, there's so much opportunity available to us in the leadership realm. You must
Mm.
learn and continue to be growing, or you're dying. We all know that, to be
Yes,
able to become the best leaders. Yeah.
absolutely.
Who do we learn from? We learn from the best leaders. We learn from
Everyone
those
as
leaders that are
well.
out there educating and using, and giving us knowledge and motivating and inspiring. So I really feel that if people think, oh, I don't need to join that group, or I don't need to go to that seminar, or I don't need to sit in that conference, I don't need to learn anything else, I already know what I need to know to run a business. I know how to run a business. It's like, do you? Because if you did, then you would be on top, right? And you're not. So there's a gap of a knowledge of something you don't know. And why don't you go learn that so you can become the best leader?
Colleen, I am a lifelong learner. My curiosity gets the better of me in most instances. And so the concept of stopping learning is quite foreign for me, because I know that my curiosity would drive me. And the thing is, you might think that you've sat in just about every marketing or leadership thing that you can go to or listen to, but there is always something, isn't there? Mm-hmm. There's always something.
Yeah.
And because humans grow and develop, there's always a renewed perspective. So something you heard 12 months ago may not resonate the same as it does in 12 months later, because you're not the same person, are you?
That's right, because we're continuing to grow. So as we reach new levels, new growth and knowledge and opportunity are available to us. So just like you, Tony, we're really never done learning. And to me, some of the most influential leaders are those that continue learning and then pass that knowledge on.
Absolutely. I find that so much makes me curious. I find that the time for communicating and letting my, hey, found this today, hey, check this out, that's the piece for me. It's not about the learning, because I love the learning and the curiosity drives me forward. It's about imparting that knowledge to others, and that's part and parcel of what you do. Colleen, I wanted to go back to the beginning, from corporate life, and what prompted you into business and why?
Well, I think God had a lot to do with it. He worked through other people, closed some doors. I worked my way up in corporate America and really felt like I was on this one path, and I knew whose position I wanted. I was being groomed for it from my boss. And when my boss left the company and retired, that was a really tough time for me, because both my favorite CEO and my boss all retired within a couple of years. So I felt like and these were both gentlemen, I felt like I had lost two of my rocks, two of the people that had taken me under their wing, had really sponsored me and mentored me in corporate America. And I'm so thankful what they taught me that prepared me to be an entrepreneur. But I didn't know that's what I was being groomed and prepared for, but I think they did. And I wanted that position. That was my next natural step. But then a different CEO had stepped into place, and they had another plan. So a gentleman that I had actually worked with in that company 20 years before that came back to the company in that position, and that kind of locked me out. And they were like, well, don't worry, because we're going to create this amazing position for you over here, which again became a gift. Because I got to go on the road for 2 years before I left the company and got to visit all my clients. I got to really look at, why is this one business so strong in these 5 indicators, and these other businesses aren't doing so great. So I learned from the ones that were doing amazing as entrepreneurs, where their strong points were, what they did differently, why it worked so well, and started creating this like standard operation procedures for the actual businesses. to be able to operate with these new brand standards, right? So that's what I was working on. And I got to go around to all my clients that I had helped them build these businesses, take them out to dinner, spend time with their staff, learn their most intricate secrets of what they do to make their businesses successful. And I did that for 2 years before I finally decided to leave the company. It was like my farewell tour, but I didn't know it at the time till I looked back. And I'm so grateful, Tony, that I had that time with them. And not only did my boss and my CEO groom me, but I got to learn all the secret successes of how to run a business as an entrepreneur, and what it was about staff member, what it was about, something that they put in place as a standard in their business, and how they treated their customers, and what made them stand out from the other competitors in the area. So again, more knowledge for me to take out into the huge ocean of entrepreneurship, to not only use it for my business, but then teach other entrepreneurs how to do that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
In thinking about your business and where you are today, I'm sure there's lots of pivotal moments, but can you think about one pivotal moment within your business journey? What was that moment about? What happened, and why was it important? What did you learn, Colleen?
Well, there was one big one not too long ago. And I originally, as you were reading my bio, it said that I led the community lead up for women for several years. That was like my baby coming out of corporate America. I built that from the ground up, worked so many hours, so hard, got so much visibility and exposure, and was super proud of all that I had built and the successes the women had had and all the visibility that I had given them. And it kind of abruptly changed overnight. I had a partner in the business and things went sideways. I won't get into details, but just imagine waking up on a Monday morning, your email doesn't work because the website got shut down. And then the bank account's gone. And then your email's gone. And this is your business that you had built. So kind of just imagine that. And that's how it felt to me. There's a lot of details behind the scene, and I'm not going to get into those details, but there were many discussions up to that point, but I don't even know if that person realized that shutting down the website was going to shut off so much. And I just kind of felt numb, and like everything I had worked for was gone. And I had to kind of stop and rebuild. And I remember my husband said to me, because I just wanted it to go away, and I was like, can we just throw money at this problem?
Yeah.
And my husband said to me, you empower women to fight, to stand up for their voices, to stand up for what they believe in, to stand up for their businesses, to shine. And he said, you can't lay down and do nothing.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a pivotal moment for me, that even when time gets tough and you don't know what to do and you feel like you're beaten or you're down or there's legal issues or whatever it is, if you're not dying and you're not dead, there's a recovery that can come from that. And so that big lesson, which I knew, but we forget all the lessons in our life when something like that happens.
Forget, and then you're sort of promptly reminded. Yeah.
And I was, I always say God hits me over the head with a 2x4 because I'm so stubborn. And he really wanted me to probably take a different path or do something, and I had a lot of rebuilding to do, brand rebuilding, website rebuilding. And, this was less than a year ago, and I can't even believe how much I've rebuilt and where I'm at.
Seriously.
To walk away from podcasts that had 175 episodes that you've been working on with live radio shows for years. And, it was a lot. And I was just like, the other piece was losing 20,000 followers on Instagram, all these things.
Oh my
and I just realized, business pages down. And I just realized that was all vanity, right? That was that really wasn't who I was or why I was put on this path to do what I'm doing. So I kind of picked myself up and made a decision and just went into go mode and started rebuilding what I needed to build. And rebuilding, I rebuilt a different community for the women that were around. And I asked them, do you want to do this or not? And they're like, no, please don't go anywhere. We love, being in a community with you for visibility. And you've offered us so much and we want to stay collaborating and networking. So I just got my VA together and we just hit the ground running and started, rebuilding things with new brands and different names and just built. And that's what I did in 2022. And I mean, my year was amazing. It really was. And just to think that that was less than a year ago and where I'm standing today, your life can change in a day, in a moment.
In a heartbeat.
And that taught me a lot about trusting myself and trusting my instincts and not relying on other people to support me, thinking I needed help to be able to be successful. And it's not to say that that wasn't a person that was successful. He absolutely was. I'm saying that I can trust myself to be successful and I don't need to trust other people. So again, another pivotal moment of learning. So that's a lot.
Absolutely. Colleen, in talking about all the startups and all the businesses you've helped, is there one key piece of advice that you always give to them?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Every single one, which is I help them find what makes them unique. There is so many businesses out there, and so many of those businesses are similar and do really, really well. So when you ask someone, why do you go to that one Starbucks on the corner of, Higley and Ray or whatever? Why do you stop at that one Starbucks every day on your way to work? Or why is that the one coffee shop you go to, right? Or that one deli you go to, or that one. And it always comes down to the level of the person. It always comes down to how they're treated, how the customer service is, right? It comes down to a familiarity and it comes down to a loyalty. People are loyal. How many people drink Pepsi versus Coke, or how many people wear Nikes versus Adidas, right? There's this. I was very loyal to BMW. I did not like Mercedes. I know that sounds crazy, but I don't like Mercedes vehicles. I love BMW vehicles. So there's a loyalty aspect that comes down to that. And that has everything to do with how you treat people. So when you treat someone a certain way, I always tell everyone, treat someone the way you would want to be treated as a client. One of the best exercises we could do is turn the hat around when a client will say, well, what do you think of this price or this program or this product? Or, this is how I was thinking of releasing it. This is my marketing plan. I'll say, great. Now I want you to be the consumer of your product. Would you buy it for that amount of money? Is that messaging catching your heart? Is it pulling you? Is it solving a problem for you? Does it clearly share that you need to take action? So when we move into the client position and the consumer position of our business, we get a different look of what our products are. So I challenge them to do that, but I would say it's how do you stand out in the marketplace? What makes you different? And it's not price. I promise you, it's never price, because someone will go down and buy $150,000 car tomorrow because they're loyal to a brand while you're still over here, wanting to buy the $20,000 car, right? So they will have no qualms with spending $150,000 for a car because they're loyal to the brand. So loyalty has a lot to do with it. How do you build the relationships with the consumers starting on the first time you touch them and have those conversations throughout and nurture that relationship to where they become a raving fan? That's number one.
Fantastic. Colleen, amongst all the things that you do, you still try to find time to write. You're an international best-selling author. Going back to the start, what was the thing that prompted you to write, and how has writing changed your life and the lives of others?
This will not be the answer anyone's thinking I'm going to give. When I became an entrepreneur, and started up the women's group, Lead Up for Women, I went around to 10 cities in 10 states, and I needed to get physically in front of people. This was 2019.
Yeah.
So I flew around all these cities and states and brought in all of these local speakers, women, and we would do a luncheon. $75 ticket. Lunch was served, 3 hours networking, plus women speaking on a panel. It was amazing, right? However, it was not sustainable because it was very expensive for me to fly around all these places. You can imagine it's $75 a ticket. I'm brand new. I'm not making a lot of money off of these. And so I immediately had to get this thing online and have all these, you know, because I was national. I never started local. And I had women in Canada that were interested. So I brought it online, and then boom, the pandemic hit, which again, I was led to bring it online because it just wasn't sustainable for me to fly around. Everywhere I went, and people I would talk to that were entrepreneurs, they said, you know, if you really want to make it big in media and you want to be able to get more exposure, you're going to have to write a book. And I was like, I'm not writing a book. I'm not writing a book. And they said, because I got invited on a radio show, and then that radio show asked me to be a live radio show host. And I said, no, thank you. I'm not a live radio show. I have no idea. I'm coming from corporate America. I'm a good trainer. I'm a good speaker. I know how to start businesses. I'm good. I don't know how to be a host of a radio show. And they said, well, we have 3.2 million listeners, and most of them are women. I was like, sign me up, right? Where do I sign up? I'll learn.
I'll figure it out
very fast. So after I did that, and then people kept saying a book, I was like, I don't know how to write a book. I think it would be cool to write a book. And then I think about all these amazing authors like Mark Victor Hansen and people I've even had like on my own podcast and interviewed them, you know, all these amazing authors that I've read all their books. I'm just a book crazy connoisseur. Yeah. And someone said, you got to have a book. And one of the ladies, as fate would have it, that I brought in Ohio, in Ohio, that led one of my panels, the women's panel, is doing an anthology book. And she said, would you like to be part of this book? You could become a published author. And I was like, that's on my bucket list of I have to become a published author, people said, right? So that's what got me into writing. And I loved it. I loved it. And all the women that I got to meet, a lot of them became members of my community. I collaborated with it was just this great way to meet people too, you know? So since then, I decided to do my own book. I've been in other, books. I decided to publish my own journals on Amazon where people can buy them, and they're journals that you can write in. Yes. So I just kind of went crazy. And then within like a year and a half, 2 years, I've added another book. Now I'm up to another one I just did this year, a gratitude book. And that was kind of a tribute to my husband. But I can tell you that writing to me feels good. And why we need to write is this. It's kind of the same reason of why we need to speak up and speak out, because there are individuals on this earth that can only hear a message from you. How many times have you heard someone say something, you're like, oh, I totally get that, and it impacted you, and the person sitting next to you is like, I've been telling you that for 5 years. Yep. And you're like, well, I never heard it from you, but that makes sense. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I believe we have a right, like we have an obligation to share our knowledge. We have an obligation to
share our wisdom,
share our message, share our wisdom, to write the things that will impact and change other people's lives. And so I just feel like we have that obligation, and I will continue writing books and continue doing anthologies and eventually do my own book. Right now, people have asked me, why aren't you going to write your own book? When are you going to write your own book? And I feel like I have some more learning and experiences. I mean, can you imagine if I would have done it last year, then I never would have written about what I went through? Yes. So I'm still going through some experiences, and God will let me know when the right time is right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Crazy,
Colleen, but
amazing trajectory, let us say. Why do you think women or female entrepreneurs are the change makers in the universe? This is one of my fundamental beliefs. I believe that women in this particular decade will change the world as we see and know it. Fundamentally believe it. You work with women. Do you think the same thing? Do you think that if we empower female entrepreneurs, we absolutely change the planet?
1,000% in my heart. I know that. Women are the absolute most powerful beings on earth. I think many men absolutely agree with that as well.
Yes.
I don't believe women exercise that power. Men do. And men do,
I know,
because they've, from our DNA,
always done
centuries, and that was their job. I mean, that was the survival, was for the man to go kill and the woman nurtured. Like, if let's just go back to the beginning of time, that's how it's always been. So when women decide that it's time for them to step into that role of leadership, and most women are already,
which can be
powerful
scary.
leaders.
Just thinking about it for lots of women is quite a scary and challenging thought. But once you do it, it's one of the most powerful things that you can do, isn't it, Colleen?
It is. And most of them are already leaders in their family. Most of them are already leaders in their community. They run everything. Most of them are already leaders in their churches. It's just the business side of things where women get tripped up a little bit on that. Absolutely. And so that's why I believe really God called me out of corporate America into the entrepreneurship pool, to be that guide and that beacon, to show them what's possible, to be there to assist them along the way on that journey, because it really has a lot to do with our mindset and our confidence. And once we know we can do something, once we believe we can do something, we really become unstoppable at that point. So definitely. I do believe that there's a whole wave of shift of leadership, and women are rising up again, not to change the authority of a man ever. This is not about counterbalancing. It's about women actually stepping up to take that powerful lead for themselves and for their businesses and for the sake of others, and just stepping into those roles, because we already have most of what we need to do it. It's just the courage and the bravery
to do it,
and moving through the fear.
That fear of being seen and heard for many women is a part of our DNA. And so, but once you move past that, it's incredible what you can do, accomplish, who you can meet, and the impact that you can have. And speaking of impact, Colleen, can you tell us about LEAP Community, what it stands for, why it is? It's your passions. Tell us about LEAP.
Yeah, LEAP was born out of the leadership that I really wanted women to step into, this whole leadership, realm that we just talked about. So I created LEAP because, I had Lead Up for Women before, and LEAP it's an acronym. It stands for Lead with Enhanced Acceleration to reach your peak performance or your peak potential. That's really what it means. And when we leap, we're this suspension in the air for a little while, and we don't know what's going to happen. I think that is the scariest part for all of us. It's kind of like when you're not a mom and then you get pregnant, there's this like time where you don't know what it's going to be like or what it's going to, and we just kind of have to hang out until we have the baby, and then you kind of land on your 2 feet, right? And you try and then you figure it out. That's all we do. You figure it out. That is what it's like when we take the leap. It's why my podcast is named that. It's why the community, the LEAP community, is named that. I want women to think to themselves, when I join the LEAP community, I am declaring that I'm ready to take the leap, that I'm going to take the leap and talk to more people than I normally talk to. I'm going to collaborate more. I'm going to ask people to open doors for me. I'm going to ask to be on that podcast. I'm going to ask to get that interview. So when we're taking the leap, we are essentially saying we're ready to risk, we're ready to go, we're ready to, I want to do this, right? I'm gonna take that risk, I'm gonna take that leap. So but I know that in my programs and working with my clients, the reason why there's an acceleration piece in there is because it's no different than a golf coach, football coach, soccer coach, tennis coach. When you have a coach that's teaching you how to play tennis and they practice with you all the time, you're going to become a more advanced, better tennis player faster because you're having someone coaching with you.
Absolutely. Colleen, I said, someone asked me something about coaching just recently, and I said, I've always had coaches. And they said, really? And I'm like, absolutely. If you want to go further, faster, get yourself a coach or a mentor, someone like Colleen, because you don't know what you don't know. You don't see what you don't see. That external person championing you, supporting you, leading you, giving you large and vast amounts of wisdom, that takes you farther, faster. And for women, that can be a really profound leap. Can't it, Colleen?
Absolutely. It really is. And I'm so glad that you said it so eloquently, Tony, because along our path, I've had business coaches, still have one. I've had speaking coaches. I've had spiritual coaches. I still have a health coach, and I was a personal trainer. So it's not like I don't know, but I need someone there to can kind of keep me in check and guide me. So it's totally about that accountability. So for me, I think that is one of the most important pieces. And the one thing about the LEAP community, besides the visibility, is what makes it so different than any other community, because we need that visibility for our brand to be seen, to be heard, to be visible. And that's what these platforms are. In the LEAP community, we have all the love, all the support, all the collaboration, all the fun events, all those things. But it's the visibility that really makes it different. I just love the women it attracts, and how they want to help each other, how they're freely give advice,
aren't they, to each other?
And it's very important to me that we're
hardwired for connection. Humans are hardwired for connection. So you need some sort of connection. And I know for myself, large volumes of my day are spent online. So I get my connection via online means. But for many people, and then I need to actually decompress and be completely away from people to get up and
this
get
is
going
what I
again.
say, Tony. I say I love to socialize with people, but when I don't, I won't.
I'm absolutely, and it's not about not liking humanity. It's actually about making sure that I am in the space on Monday morning to give from my best self. And if I don't take that time out, I'm not as helpful, I'm not as good, all of those things. So that being wired and then that connectiveness of community is important. And conversely, then you have to work out what works for you in terms of decompressing. That beautiful, supportive, creative, wonderful, connected community you've created, Colleen, is helping women across the globe, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's a curated group, and women just keep inviting women that they know. I'm the strongest believer of this, because I teach what happens to me, right? I teach what success happens. So when I have success doing something, I teach it to other people. I share it freely, right? I don't hold anything back. I want everyone to have the same success. When you show up as yourself, when you don't apologize for what you have to say, when you don't apologize for your beliefs, when you have dance parties at your networking events, like I do every month. I always start out with a dance party, and some women will show up and say, did you know you were sharing your screen and I can hear your music? And I'm like, yes, this is a dance party. So you don't have to dance, but I am going to dance because it raises my vibration. I attract the right women to me that love that type of energy, that want to be in a group with women that are like that, right?
Yeah.
So I attract those types of women, and they hang out in that group. They will collaborate in that group. I don't attract women that don't vibrate at that vibration, that don't enjoy the types of events that I run, that aren't looking for visibility. I don't attract them. So when we show up as ourselves exactly the way we are, it's the most freeing thing you will ever do in your life, because it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks about you. It's all about them, right?
Yes.
And you get to just be you in all your glory. That is so transparent and so freeing. It gives others
permission to do the same thing.
Yeah. And that, can you imagine a mom that did that every day? She would just automatically, without saying a word, give her children permission to just be them. And I don't think that's happening in this world.
Colleen, I don't think it is either. That permission.
There's so much pressure to perform and so
be
much
a
pressure
certain
to
way.
look at social media, so much pressure to look a certain way, or run your business a certain way, or act a certain way, or whatever it is. And I'm like, forget all that noise. What do you want to do?
You.
Who are you and what works for you? Yeah.
Colleen, one of the earliest lessons for me was to, learn and listen, take what you hear, but then, as my team would say, tonify it, because you have to do, you're unique. So the way that you look at sales, for instance, is going to be through a Tony lens or a Colleen lens. And that's not going to work for everyone. So it's about taking that information, sitting with it, thinking about it, and then going, okay, how's that going to work for me? And
I have worked with so many companies, Tony, that don't get me. And I'm like, you should do this and you should do that. And I'm like, no, that doesn't feel right to me. This is how I want to do it. And I'm all over the place. And I'm like, let's build this and let's build that. And I want to do this next. And I want to do that. And I just I don't think like other people, and how I put things together
that as well.
And I don't. And I think people want you, they if they're linear like that, they don't understand it if you don't think like that. And I remember saying to my husband one day, Tony, I don't get why people struggle with that. I'm just like everybody else. And my husband was like, what'd you just say? And I said, I'm just like everyone else. He's like, oh,
husbands are great grounders, aren't they? Because mine's told me my brain is
so far from like anybody else out there. I promise you that. He said that is the biggest struggle that they have, because they can't
think like you. We've had lots of conversations lately about the way that we communicate. And, we've been together for a pretty long time, and to discover, oh my God, he really doesn't think anything like I think, has been a life changer for us. Because now I go, okay, so now I have to put this into husband speak versus Tony speak, so that we can at least be on the same page. And it's fun understanding how other people think and engage and all the rest of it. Colleen, before we run out of time, though, you have a special giveaway for our listeners. Would you like to tell them about that?
Yeah, I wanted to create, because, I've got my book that talks about the stepping into the spotlight to expand your influence and attract the right customers. But that could be a bigger read for someone. So what I did was I took some pieces from one of the chapters in the book and I broke it down to just 7 easy ways that you can expand your influence and attract your dream clients. And these are easy ways that you can apply. Anybody can apply this to their business today. Visibility is key. I promise you, if no one knows who you are, you're not going to be able to grow your business. You have to have visibility. So these are simple little ways and tasks that you can put into your regular day or your regular week, or insert into your business, that are very easy of ways you can get more visibility. And I'll just give you an example of one of them. Running your own podcast is an amazing way to get visibility, right?
Correct.
Because your message is out there to hundreds to thousands, or however many listeners you have. Also, being a guest on someone else's podcast is one to how many thousands of people. So not just always building your own platforms, but utilizing the platforms of others that they have built and others' events. So that's one easy way that you can spread your message to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of listeners quickly without you having to have one-on-one, with everyone in networking events. So just one way.
Yeah. So wherever you're watching this interview, there will be a link to Colleen's giveaway for you to download and have to help expand your influence. Colleen, I want to finish up with one of my favorite questions, and that is, what's next for you and where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Okay, so what's next for me is a lot of humility this year in letting go and letting God lead more. That is really big for me.
Yeah.
And where I see myself in 5 years is sitting on the porch in my cabin with my husband and I.
And where's your cabin?
It's up in northern Arizona where we live. So up in northern Arizona, up in the mountains. It's all snowy up there right now.
I'm
and
so jealous.
We just bought 5 acres of land. So I put stuff on my vision board every year, and every year we get a little closer. And in 5 years, I see myself sitting on the porch with my husband, enjoying the fruits of our labor of the dreams and the visions that we have, and building memories with our family. I also see that my community builds to a legacy that other women can run, and that will be something that will go on for decades for them to be able to, continue to be connected. And I really do see spreading the message more of, having faith and believing in yourself and confidence, and what that means for each individual woman to step into her power and not give it away, but keep that ignited at all times. That's what I see in 5 years.
Absolutely. That key piece about backing yourself, because there are always going to be people that say negative things. You are always going to get negative views. You are always going to get people who don't resonate with what you say. So you need to absolutely believe and back yourself against anything else, because
100%.
No one can tell you your vision and dream, can they, Colleen? No one has the right to dissuade you from that God-given vision and mission that you see for your life. No one has the right to take that away from you, to comment on that. Yes, they can give you direction and guidance and wisdom, but at the end of the day, you have to fundamentally believe in yourself and back yourself, don't you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Colleen Biggs, thank you so much for sharing with us today on the Everyday Business Show. I am delighted that we had time to connect and do this interview. You are a blessing to the world, a blessing to women across the globe, and I encourage you to connect with Colleen. We will have a list of all of her socials, her giveaways attached to this interview, and I encourage you to reach out, connect with this amazingly beautiful woman. And that, my friends, is your lot for this week. Thank you, Colleen.
Thanks, Tony.
Of shows with business owners that puts them in front of a global audience, and in behind those shows is a whole range of things, from digital magazines to social media to blogging to email to lead generation, just a whole range of things.